and welcome to Literary Classics. Yes. Hello! Somebody left the door closed and it is freezing in here. Please save me. This is so hard. It's cold. It's like freezing my brain. It's hard to talk about writing a novel because it's an art form, and if you like art, you're allowed to break the rules. You can do it any way you want. There's ways that have been found to be really good, but you can also be really good if you find your own trail to blaze. And there's just so many ways to do everything. I can't tell you how to do anything. You just have to find a way that works for you and what you enjoy. But I'm going to be going over some of the basic, just planning out your novel and like getting your first idea, the first step, I guess. And so the first thing you need is a concept, some sort of idea, and then you build off of that. And so my favorite way to create a concept to build your novel off of is to use the CLAPS system. It's pretty simple. I learned it in first grade, and it's great because it has all the necessary things for a novel that you can't not have, but it doesn't have anything besides that, I don't think. So it's called CLAPS because it's C-L-A-P-S. C stands for character. You can't write anything without a character. Sometimes the character can be sort of a stretch, like a poem about death. Death is the character, or something like that. But it's impossible to write a story that doesn't have a character in it. And so that is one of the really necessary things. So let's use Harry Potter as an example for a CLAPS concept. We've got Harry Potter as our character. There's a ton of other characters, but you need at least one character, and so Harry Potter is the character in the concept. Next, we have location. You can't write a story that takes place in nothingness. Like, even the void can be considered a place. It's impossible to write a story that takes place nowhere, because even nowhere could be considered a place. And Harry Potter moves around a lot, so the location that we have is Earth, because they never travel to space and they're not on a high fantasy world or anything. So we got Harry Potter in Earth. And then we have A, which is action. And the action, so the character has to do something. They just can't, like, even sitting around and doing nothing could be considered an action in a way. So that is another necessary part. But Harry Potter goes to Hogwarts. That is his action. Problem is the P. That's Voldemort. Voldemort is the problem. We have a big problem, Houston. Yeah, Voldemort wants to kill Harry and do a ton of bad stuff because he's an evil dude, and that's what evil dudes do. Sometimes the problem comes before the action, but CLAPS just doesn't have the same magic to it, so we do action and then problem. And then the S is solution. And so Harry eventually kills Voldemort instead of Voldemort killing Harry, and that's the solution. But sometimes the solution isn't really it doesn't really ever like solve the problem, but it is a solution. The story has to have an end at some point. So like, the solution could be that Harry Potter died. Oh no, he failed. The world is doomed now. That would have been considered a solution if he had just died and stayed dead. So you got your character, your location, your action, your problem, and your solution. And that's a very broad concept, and then you build off of that. So let's say I'm gonna have this character, it's a squirrel named Johnny, and he lives in a park, and he's collecting nuts for the winter. But you can't find any nuts because all the other squirrels stole them all. So he kills all the other squirrels and steals their nuts. So he's got nuts. And that's a pretty good summary, broad concept of your novel. So that's a great way to start it out. There's a lot of other sort of like bases to build your novel off of. There's the hero's journey. That's probably the most popular one, but that one gets pretty specific, and some of the things I think can be avoided in that. Not all of them are necessary, and I like Collapse because it's so broad and you can fit it into anything. So that's what I like. Collapse is cool. And so Collapse is a pretty easy concept to follow, and it's a really good starting place for your first step. Yeah, so my mom said that the background should be more interesting. So if I have time for that today, then I should start getting some cool things to put in the background so it's not just a blank wall. She also says that she doesn't watch any YouTube videos over 5 minutes, but I could not have explained even Collapse, such a simple concept, as much as I wanted to in 5 minutes. So I'm keeping it at 10 because that's how much time I want to have to explain what I'm talking about. I can't talk about writing for just 5 minutes. I have to talk about writing for an eternity. That is my problem. I just can't stop talking about it. I challenge you to try to find a novel that does not have either a character, a location, an action, a problem, or a solution. Every single one has those things. It's impossible to avoid them, as far as I know. Have a good day. Good job. Keep writing. You're a great writer. Practice makes perfect. And I'll see you tomorrow. What a literary classic. Very good. Alright. Oh, my chair just sank. Hi. So, it's like, I still remember. What I did to do an example of it was I had a fox, I can't remember what his name was, lived in the city, I think. Action, he was playing with his bouncy ball, his favorite toy. The problem, the bouncy ball crashed through a window and went into his house, and the solution, he went into the house and took the ball back. And I wrote that in first grade. I still have 2 minutes left. So yeah, Collapse. I'll probably talk about plot, even though this was sort of about plot too. This was sort of like the concept of your plot in the first step. Yeah. Alright. Bye. Come on, I'll just cut you. Reach. Don't forget to like and subscribe.